Rogue One, in my honest opinion, is going to be a very important movie to the Star Wars legacy. Since its rebirth into the mainstream eyes, this is going to be a movie designed both for the old-time Star Wars fans and me, someone who is not a Star Wars fan. I'm about as optimistic as I was skeptical to how these people handled the Star Wars franchise as I addressed in my last video, so what do I think of Rogue One? So Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, is a story about how a group of rebels gathered up the schematics or plans for the Death Star. Our protagonist of the day is Jyn Erso, played by Felicity Jones. In the prologue, Jyn has to escape from the evil Empire with a squadron led by Krennic, who laid down the Empire's forces towards Jyn's family. Flash forward, and Jyn is now an adult who is pretty much trained, but they never actually showed the training montage, but whatever. Jyn is being captured by the rebels because she is actually the daughter of Galen Erso, the mastermind behind the Death Star. Together with a group of rebels, they're gonna find out the Death Star's plans and solve the plot issue that happened in episode 4. So, how is the story? Well, the backstory was your typical generic sad backstory, but I do feel that the pacing of the story is better than The Force Awakens. The Force Awakens basically hammers me with action every 4 minutes. This one is surprisingly more restrained, leaving the action to pretty much the entire second half. Ugh. Yeah, this movie also suffers from the second half climax syndrome. I really don't get why big blockbuster movies have to make their climax so goddamn long. Maybe it was designed to create the impression that, hey, this is a good movie, guys. Well, just because the climax is good doesn't mean that the journey is. So knowing that the movie's pacing is somewhat better than The Force Awakens, this means that we're gonna have more time to actually develop the characters. This means that there's more time to actually making the characters relatable instead of the 3 characters from the previous movie that are so shallow, underdeveloped, and unrelatable they might as well be replaced by cardboard boxes. There will be more character development in this thing, right? Right?
Wrong.
This movie's biggest problem lies on the characters, and this is a huge problem that deserves to be talked about. If you think that The Force Awakens characters are shallow and underdeveloped, wait until you get a load of this one. Now, I should probably give this movie some slack. This movie has tons and tons of characters, but The Avengers proved that you can still have tons and tons of characters and still have personality and humanity and a little bit of a sprinkles of organic life in there. However, the core problem of this entire movie is none other than Jyn. Yeah, the main character is a big problem in the movie. Were you gonna harp on and on about whether or not Rey from The Force Awakens is a Mary Sue character? You know what? Throw that debate into a garbage bin. Instead, let's talk about whether or not Jyn is an actual person. She is not a Mary Sue. She is worse. She is a blank sheet of paper. She is a character who is so wooden, so lifeless, so joyless, so inorganic, so synthetic. It feels like this movie is just using her as an object for the plot to progress. She doesn't feel like an actual human being. She feels like a lifeless drone. And I can show you why. 99% of her dialogues are nothing but objective expositions. I have to go here. I know this person. We should fight. This is what we should do. This plan goes here. This plan goes there. I'm gonna do this. I don't want to leave you. I need to do this. Every single dialogue that came out of her mouth feels like a rehash of the most cliched movie dialogues to the point where I cannot see a shred of humanity in her. She feels so inorganic. What I see right in front of my eyes is a character shoved by big corporations who want to cash in on a movie and not an actual human being. At least, I know this is fiction, but at least try to give us the illusion that we're in a real world where human beings are actually human beings. In this movie, she feels like an object. Huh. I guess this is what you meant as objectification. You're literally reducing characters into their actions and their logical objective measures instead of someone who actually have agency and personality and free will, someone who actually has something organic in them. Disney is a progressive company after all. They own Marvel, who keep on projecting in their comics of how female characters are objectified. This is a company that tries its hardest to make itself to not look sexist or racist, and yet here's a 2-hour movie where the main female character is ridden like a drone. I'm not even a Star Wars fan, and I actually feel, oh my god. The way they write Jyn Erso in this movie is so inorganic. I actually feel a little insulted. And it's not like showing one character in a sexy pose, therefore objectifying and therefore wrong. No, this is a 2-hour movie where I have to sit through 2 hours of Jin. I can see through one picture of her. It doesn't tell me much about her character. There could be stories made of her, but the promotional picture doesn't tell me much. A movie does. And not 1 hour, not one single hour in this movie makes her feel authentic or organic. Even the emotional scenes where I'm supposed to feel bad for her and empathize with her, the emotion is not earned because she hasn't made any emotional connection with me. She hasn't made any sorts of action that is organic, that is human, that can actually make me go relate to her. I mean, the only reason why the movie thinks that I should relate to her at this moment is, look guys, she has our protagonist. She's a female. Isn't that amazing? Hey, I'm the kind of guy who plays chick as KOTOR and I have a crush with my femchef, but if these characters have no shred of humanity, what the hell is the goddamn point of me relating myself on them? And this doesn't just happen to Jin, this happens to almost everybody in the movie. And for all the talk of the female protagonists and diverse characters so that the girls and the people of color can have heroes to look up for, can I ask you something? What would you rather choose? Would you choose a bunch of characters that are not so diverse, but are actually relatable, but actually feel like organic human beings? Or a bunch of diverse characters with different races, different ethnicities, but feels like a blank sheet of paper? Seriously, can I ask you that question? I mean, I'd rather show the horrendously problematic Justice League cartoon with actual heroes, with actual personalities and characteristics to look up for, rather than showing a movie with characters that feel like blank sheets of paper. And like Jin, their dialogues consist of nothing but expositions, 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 expositions. These characters felt like drones. I cannot see a shed of humanity in them. Are there any positives? Yes, the action scenes were fantastic. The CGI is visually stunning, even realistic to some degree. Lots of money are being put into CGI, even though people in Lucasfilm should realize that putting too much money on making realistic CGI without any effort into the story or character development is gonna make the movie forgettable at best. And in my honest opinion, if you want to see this movie, see it for the same reason you want to see Ip Man. Donnie Yen. He's the only character in the movie that doesn't feel like a robot. He feels like a human being. His dialogues are shining beacons of any shred of humanity that is left with these awfully robotic, synthetic characters. Oh, sure, he's preaching of how the Force will save him and is basically a little bit of a cuckoo in the head, but I relate to him so much better than the other characters. That and he's freaking badass. Unfortunately, these good things are not enough to substantiate the bad things that this movie have, and there are major problems with the movie. In conclusion, this movie is very disappointing. I'm sorry, but it's evident that Star Wars is under the management of the least competent people in the industry, which is why the president of this movie just focuses on making the company look less racist and sexist instead of actually making good movies. The president harping on to not appealing to the male Star Wars fans. Sorry, I mean those obnoxious fans who criticize Jin for being a Mary Sue. I actually owe an apology to these people. I wholeheartedly apologize for ever doubting you. Disney has proven twice of writing, okay, not Disney, not just Disney. This blame is not entirely on Disney. Disney and Lucasfilms has proven twice of writing shallow, lifeless, boring characters in their biggest franchise with absolutely no distinguishable personality or even a shred of humanity or organic life. It feels very disappointing. I am genuinely disappointed. I'm not even a Star Wars fan. Like, that's the thing. I'm not even a Star Wars fan and the characters feel so lifeless. It's a huge problem, movie. It's a really huge problem. As someone who is not a big fan of Star Wars, who comes to the movie to find out something you enjoy, who come in here giving you the benefit of the doubt, in my honest to God opinion, Rogue One is a disappointingly mediocre movie with painfully shallow, robotic, unemotional, unrelatable characters, story that is just too typical, boring, and tiresome, and action scenes that are just the same good. How am I gonna recommend this movie? Well, if you think that Star Wars The Force Awakens is awesome, spectacular, amazing, you're gonna enjoy this movie, no doubt. If The Force Awakens is designed for you, then you're gonna get into this movie enjoying the living hell out of it. For those of you who are looking for something fresh and something actually good in Star Wars, go ahead and replay Knights of the Old Republic or something. Just salvage anything that you can get from the expanded universe right after Disney just destroyed it into pieces. I'm definitely gonna do that after this movie. That's all for the video today. If you like this, you can go ahead and click the like button and subscribe for more if you wish. You can support me at Patreon. And thanks for watching.